just walking home from dropping the kids off at school, which is right up there actually, and just down at the Waffle Monkey, which is right below it, and checking out the view. Waves, high tide is this afternoon, looking forward to that. Sharmila just hopped on a plane back to Canada for a couple of weeks, and yeah, I'm solo dad here for a little bit, which the routine doesn't change that much actually, because I'm usually getting them up. Of course she's supporting, and we're, you know, co-creating our parenting, but you know, I get the kids up, I bring them to school, I pick them up. I love taking them in the ocean, all of these things. But yeah, it's gonna be challenging for sure by myself, but also fun. But why I wanted to go live today, because I actually told myself, I think it was on like January 28th, I stopped recording my daily live streams, but I felt like going live here today and talking about this. What will motivate you to create change in your life? And I'm gonna link up a couple of videos that were shared inside of the Better Man community that Mike Prince and I have co-created. One of them is by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the other one is by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And the Joe Dispenza one in particular, he has a line in an interview, and he's said this many times over, but he has a line in an interview where he talks about we can create change in our life in a state of despair and pain and suffering, like disease or physical discomfort or whatever, you know, just from not being in good shape and not being able to enjoy things in life. Big dog running by. Or we can do it in an enlightened state of happiness and joy. Most people's default is to react to change that is forced upon them. Meaning, they get sick, or something happens. They lose a job, they get fired from a job, they go through a divorce. Whatever these things are, these major moments in life where everything that you've known to be true gets flipped upside down, and now I'm forced to change, or else I stay in a depressed state. So then the question always is like, okay, if you present that, people would always say, well, of course I'd love to create change, and let's even rephrase that, just growth. I'd love to continue to grow as a human being, and I don't want to be pushed into having to do it because I got sick and I can't, you know, now I'm in catch-up mode, which is what the whole pharmaceutical industry is basically based on, right? It's like, okay, you got sick, here's this pill. The opposite of that is children coming into school learning proper nutrition and understanding even things as simple as, you know, when we eat our food and how often we eat our food. And that's not to say that there's only one right way or that I have any or all of these answers, because I don't. But we don't teach all this stuff in school. We don't. We teach the nutrition guides, which like recently, I know people were making fun of this stuff, but I believe it was like Lucky Charms were rated higher on the food chart for nutritious value than steak, which is like, come on, our world's gone a little nutso. But it goes back to this thought then that, like, do you believe this to be true? And are you actually taking your advice from a government or from even an education system to be able to live your best life, your definition of that? And then the last thing that I just wanted to reference here, and really the motivation behind actually creating this, is I just met a family who are here for 6 weeks, and they have their kids in the same school as ours, just short term. And the wife had mentioned that her husband's brother was sick and that she was looking over at him because he looked really concerned on the phone. And So I have no idea what the actual circumstances of that are, but I picked up my coffee and I looked over and I saw him breaking down crying, and his wife was embracing him. And now I don't know anything to do with the circumstances of that, or whether or not what has happened to his brother was preventable, or if it was just divinity of, hey, we all have a clock that's ticking and eventually it's gonna run out. And for some, we stay on this earth for hundreds of years. Well, 100+ years. I'm not sure I know of anybody that's passed more than 100 years, or more than 200, I should say. But it just got me thinking about that, knowing that, like, I don't have a clue about what's going on for that guy and what's going on in his head, but I do know that it will create change for him, whatever that looks like. Maybe it'll be something where he recognizes how he's showing up and living his life in the way that he takes care of himself physically, or the food that he eats, or the present time that he's with his children, or the fact that they're here 6 weeks out of the year instead of full time. Because I just talked briefly with his wife, and she was just saying that they can't, or they've created a life so far that has not allowed them to completely leave and come and live here full time. Maybe in tragedy, this is when we do our greatest shifts. And this is likely the truth, is that pain and suffering pushes us to create the change that we've set in our heads that we've always wanted before. Now, how can we actually create that without it being forced onto us, but actually be the creator of that change that we want to see in ourselves, and quite frankly in everything that I'm talking about here too, the politics, the education system, the healthcare system, all that kind of stuff. I, for one, have been one to be vocal about my opinions about certain things, but then eventually realizing that I can't waste my energy on that. I have to go and be an example for my children so that they see what it means to actually be present, loving, vulnerable, honest, brave, courageous, wealthy, all of that. I am my children's greatest teacher. Not a teacher in the school system. Nothing outside of me. I am my children's greatest teacher. And on that note, I got to get running home because I'm doing a call today with Veronica, who I will mention that I shouted her out here because she is somebody that has such a grounded presence to her and an enlightened presence to her. And she has just recently fully owned the fact that she is here to help raise consciousness of parents in this world. And she's asked me to have a conversation with her around my thoughts on that, because this is part of it. When we speak out loud about that which is concerning us, but that which also we want to create positive change around, it ripples into the world. It does. It's a frequency, energetic thing. You can't, what we focus on amplifies. If we focus on pain and suffering and disease and heartache and negativity, we will create more of it. If we focus on how can I be the change that I want to see in the world, we create the change that we desire to see in the world. It's that simple. And I know the monkey brain, especially in us guys, says, well, it can't be that simple. If it was that simple, everybody would be doing it. It's that simple. Believe it. And then do the hard work, which is actually showing up. Maybe going against the grain of what everybody else is saying and doing. Because that's what creates real change. And that's what we'll talk about on our call today. So on that note, if you watch this, appreciate you. And yeah, think about what you're thinking right now. And if it has anything to do with fear or negativity, or you're not where you want to be, What can you do to take a step in the direction of changing your thoughts to be positive and changing your actions to align with the person that you want to be and the world that you want to create? Have a good one.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Trevor Turnbull Show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider subscribing on my YouTube channel, as well as on your favorite podcast platform. So until next time, remember, today is a beautiful day of opportunity. Trust that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. So be grateful, be curious, and be brave.